We're Sarah and Ben. Welcome to our journey to van life.
Thanks very much for being here with us. To follow our journey from how we turn this into this, please like, subscribe and click the little notification bell. And we'll see you out there on the road sometime.
When we started thinking about how we wanted this van to be, we decided we wanted aluminium roof racks, side steps and a ladder to provide access. The roof rack was going to provide the mountings for the lights, for the awning, for the solar panels at the back and for some other lights that go around the edge. And also we wanted the ladder so that you can gain access to everything that's up there. We also wanted side steps to make it easier to get in and out, and it also provides that styling really to the outside. And we had a lot of other areas around the van where we wanted to be able to make bespoke aluminium. Have you seen the price of bespoke aluminium components? That's the main reason we decided to make it ourselves. In this video we're going to tell you all about it.
So I got this free copy of SketchUp to try and design it. So this just gives you a basic idea of what we're trying to achieve. I'm using a 1¼ inch diameter aluminium tube. It's a T6 hardness, which means that before I can bend it I need to anneal it. And this means heating it up to about 650 Fahrenheit and letting it cool slowly. And that just allows it to soften to the point where it can bend without snapping. Now bending some of these components, I'm starting off with the parts for the side steps because that's the simplest and this is the first time I've used this bending machine. But once the metal's softened, inserting it into the machine after calculating where to start the bend from a couple of experiments with scrap metal. So it bends very easily with this machine. There's lots of leverage on it, and with the lubrication that you use it makes a really nice smooth bend. You actually take it a little bit further than you need because there's always a little bit of flex where it bends back a little bit. So getting that right is just a matter of trial and error really, but taking it to about 94 degrees I found that it comes back to about 90. So where the parts of the side step which stick out actually have to be fixed or welded onto the 2-inch diameter tube which I'm using for the main rails at the side, it obviously has to be cut to a rounded profile. So here I'm using a 2-inch hole saw in an extremely sophisticated jig to get the curve cut at the end of the tube so that it can then be welded onto the main bar. And you can see here how it will go together with the tread plate component, which I'll tell you a bit more about in a moment, and that's how they'll be put together. On the passenger side of the van, obviously there's a longer step to coincide with the sliding door and then a small step for the front passenger door. And to get them nestling neatly up against each other, what I've done here is cut the edge off the tubes so that when they go together they can actually fit slightly closer together and make a nice neat fit. When all the components are cut and clamped together they can be welded. For the tread parts of the steps I wanted a nice flat panel but with some grip to it, so I found online a company that do these perforated stair treads, S Fabrications in Sheffield. And when you're looking for components like this and lots of other components for the camper, you regularly come across companies that either don't respond to emails or don't return your calls, and actually it's such a pleasure to come to a company who really can't do enough for you, who produce a really high quality product with great customer service and at a decent price. And S Fabrications are certainly one of those. I can highly recommend them. These treads were made to the exact dimensions that I needed for this job, so really good, I'm very pleased with them. And mounting these side steps to the van is a bit of a challenge. What I've decided to do is to fabricate some components that go up to the main chassis rail and then also fit to the crease which is at the bottom of the sill. Now what I'm doing here is measuring using the laser line to be able to reference all of these measurements off a common point. So this is just working out exactly what dimensions these side brackets need to be. This is the drawing that resulted from those measurements, and then this is the component which fixes the side bars onto the chassis of the vehicle. I need 7 of these brackets, so to make sure they're all exactly the same size and shape, I made up this very basic jig just for fitting them together. You see it's just made out of plywood and a bit of wood screwed together, and you can see also that it's already scorched from the welding in close proximity to that wood. That really doesn't matter when I'm only making 7 of these components. Obviously if I was making a lot more it would need to be a lot more robust. And for the next stage of the process, which is the brackets which fix to the sills of the vehicle, I made another jig, this time out of aluminium, and you can see here I'm fitting the first stage of the component into the bracket, and then these are the pieces which actually go up to the sill, just fitting them in here perfectly flush to the top of the jig, and then that will be clamped together at the top to hold it secure, check that it's all flush, and then weld it together. Once the brackets are fixed in place initially, I can then take it out of the jig and continue to weld up all of the other faces that you can't access while it's in the jig. Bracket you just saw me making, where it fixes to the main chassis rail. Fixed to the chassis rail using riv nuts, stainless steel fittings, so you can see plenty of copper grease to make sure it doesn't seize. And then the bracket goes down and they're bolted to the seam at the bottom of the sill. Here you can see that the side bar is already fitted, but I'll come on to how that was fitted in a moment. With all the brackets fitted to the chassis of the vehicle, to make sure that it was perfectly straight and lined up with the rest of the body, I've used the laser level again to mark these points so I know that they're perfectly in line. And then using that same 2-inch diameter hole saw, I've cut through the ends of those brackets to provide the seating for the side rail to attach to. Again, here's one of the brackets near the front of the van, and you can see that's been cut out, ready to accept that 2-inch side tube. That's all then clamped into place and tack welded with it in situ. Using a wet cloth attached to the van with magnets to protect the paintwork from the radiated heat. A little bit Heath Robinson, but it seemed to work. And then with the step removed from the van, the welds can be finished and made good. It's extremely cold today, so I'm getting a bit numb. Well, today I'm making the steps for the step ladder that's going up the side, and I need to cope out the ends like this and make sure each one of them is exactly the same length. So the way I've done that, I've made this jig which goes in my drill press. Basically the bar gets exactly the right length. I've used channel 1-inch angle so that the bar just sits perfectly centered in that bar. I've welded in piece of the tube, which is going to be the 1¼ tube, which is going to be the side pieces, and the steps are this 1-inch tube. So the coating fits like that, and then I can put in each length, cut each piece, and then simply slide in the bar up to this stop, and then that will guarantee that the bar is precisely centered against the hole saw to cope out the end of the tube, and also that every single one is exactly the same length as each other. And here we have a pile of the treads for the side ladder, all nicely coped out, exactly the same length, and ready to start welding up. After measuring and bending the side tubes for the ladder, I've put it all together. It was all clamped when I tacked each of these treads into place, but now this is just going along, finally welding each one, ready for test fit on the van. You may have seen in an earlier video that there was T-track, aluminium track on the floor of the van when we got it. It was being used to fix the racking down inside, and I've actually salvaged all of that, and I'm using it to go onto the roof of the van as the mounting for the roof rack. And here you can see that I'm just modifying the mounting holes so that they line up with the holes which are already there on the roof of the van. Now onto the roof rack. I chose to do the side steps and the ladder first because the roof rack was really the more critical component to get right. So I wanted to make sure I'd had some practice and I was familiar with the techniques that I was going to use. We decided to make a roof rack ourselves because looking online and speaking with others, really to have a roof rack that's bespoke, does exactly what you want it to do, fitting the solar panels and other components on the roof, was actually going to cost probably in the region of £4,500. So I decided, well, now I'll buy a welder, I'll learn how to weld aluminium, I'll buy some aluminium tube, and actually all of the materials for this cost about £800, so a really worthwhile investment I think. And here's a sneak preview of the solar panel lift system that we made. I'll tell you more about that in the upcoming video on our electrical system. Well, here we have the finished roof rack. You can see it's mounting the solar panels, some lights on the sides, and also the light on the front. I've also got the mountings for the awning down the side there. This is a mount for the aerial for the Wi-Fi router that we've got in the back of the van.
You can see how it sticks up quite a long way, so I was concerned that if we went under a tree it might get knocked off or something. So I decided to make this mounting, which if you touch it, it actually disconnects and slides back. It's held up in place by that magnet. So the idea is that if you come under a tree, the tree will just simply hit it and it folds down, and then we can just lift it back up again to put it in place. See, the roof rack is fitted to that T-channel that was bolted to the roof. That was what was being used inside the van when we got it, to mount the shelving and the racks inside, and I've just repurposed it to use it up on the roof here. The ladder you can see here that I made to gain access to the roof was also made with the 1.5" aluminium with 1" bars. I got this 3M sticky grip tape to provide the grip on the sides, and I don't know whether you can see, but the panel of the van behind there I've had covered with a paint protection film, and that's because inevitably as you're going up the ladder your feet will touch the side of the van, and I didn't want to damage the paintwork. We also used aluminium for a lot of the fittings inside the van, and I'll show you now in the back here. So you can see that we completely lined the inside of the back here for the mounting of all of the electrical equipment on this welded aluminium checker plate. Floor and the side over here, which is where the water tanks are, and we made the mounting for the water heater just here, and the water pumps are all down there, so it's all really secure and corrosion resistant. Well, there's an overview of the aluminium components that we made for our campervan conversion. Don't forget, if you like what you saw here and you want to see some more, subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next episode coming along very, very soon.